All right, welcome into episode number 15 of the DAV Podcast. Today we're looking at DAV's Charitable Service Trust, and we're going to get you all caught up on how it helps veterans and lots of things to talk about there. And with me here, my colleague from DAV, Marine veteran herself, Ashley Burns. And Ashley, things rolling right along and excited today for another fun topic to get into here on the DAV Podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one we haven't covered before. This is something a little bit different, and it kind of gets into a program that I don't think is really as well known as some of the other things we do. And we'll sort of get into the details of why that might be. But I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite things about DAV and kind of our mission and what we do.
And what's great about it on this episode, we have an amazing slate of guests. We'll get to all that, set it up here just in a second. If this is the first time you've listened into one of the DAV podcasts, well, welcome. We love our new listeners. We always love our loyal listeners as well. And you can keep up with it anytime by subscribing wherever you listen, including on iTunes and Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, to name a few, DAV.org/podcast. You can find all 15 episodes there as well. And while you're there, if you're a veteran, you need some help, learn more about our programs and services, or if you'd like to help us help veterans, we do all that through the generous donations and support of our contributors and all of our donors. And as we get into today's topic, the DAV Charitable Service Trust, I can also tell you they have their own website. You can check out cst.dav.org. And actually, the Service Trust specifically, it was formed in 1986. And I don't know, when I came to DAV, I didn't know a lot about the Charitable Service Trust. And it was interesting because all the amazing programs that we offer here at DAV, it seemed like the Charitable Service Trust was always sort of filling in the gaps. And that's the way I try to explain it to folks when I first talk about it. And today we're going to get a really deep insight of how exactly that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a perfect way to kind of summarize it. As I said, the CST is probably one of my favorite aspects of what we do within DAV. It's one more way that we're able to make that impact on veterans' lives. And the reality is, kind of as you said, we can't do it all. We recognize that there are a number of issues that veterans face when they're transitioning out of service and far beyond that. And while we address some of those things, like DAV does disability claims and appeals work, we work with veterans on employment issues. There's a lot of things where we don't necessarily have that depth of expertise or the existing resources or framework to stand up and build an entirely new program to tackle some of these other issues. And that's where the CST comes into play. And we're able to provide grants to these organizations all across the country and support the incredible work that they're doing in a really wide variety of applications that are all designed to empower veterans and their families. So we were fortunate enough to get an interview with CST President Dick Marbs. I believe we've highlighted Dick on the podcast before, but if we haven't, he's a truly phenomenal individual. He's been engaged with the CST for nearly 30 years. Dick is an Air Force veteran. He was injured in 1958. That injury resulted in the amputation of his right leg. After that, he really went on to live such a full life, but he's gone on to do so much with DAV. He was DAV National Commander at one point, but he's really dedicated so much of his life to serving veterans, and at some point decided he was going to kind of make that his full-time path. And right now, he's been serving as the president of the Charitable Service Trust for, I think it was since like 1997, I believe. So as I mentioned, we had a great opportunity to chat with him. We sent Mary Deaver to have a conversation. So without further ado, Mary Deaver and CST President Dick Marbs.
So Dick, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. The Charitable Service Trust, you're the president. It's kind of been your baby for the last 20 years or so. Can you tell me a little bit more about the trust and how you got involved?
So I think I've been chairman since about 2000, and in that period of time to now, there have been a lot of things, all good, that have happened with the trust. We've had people come and go as far as the board, and I actually started with Nancy O'Brien, was the administrator, and now we have Bridget Sorrell, who continued on to do a fantastic job as our administrator. Pleasure to work with, and our board members too. So that was where I think I came in.
Well, Dick, as you talk about the 90s and what an impact that was on DAV as a whole, and you were national commander, you're one of our past national commanders. Do you think your experience in that role helped kind of nudge you in the direction of being such an integral part of the trust?
Yeah, definitely. Because I knew of it. I went to their meetings, and I was always been very fond of the trust. And I know from participating in some of our events with sponsors, with programs that we sponsor, but I've had the opportunity to see what impact the trust can have on people's lives. It's kind of, you have to be there to appreciate it. But when you have the opportunity to talk with some of those that have participated in some of our programs, and to be there on location with some of the programs and hear the people that provide those programs and talk with them together with the people that are in them and have them express what may have happened had they not been involved with our program. It's pretty enlightening. And when we talk about saving lives, I have to say that definitely the trust has saved a lot of lives, because people have had the opportunity to choose a future rather than just going down that same old road, which would have probably led them to nothing.
How does that fuel? Because, I mean, we're talking decades now that you've been at the realm. What keeps you going with it? What keeps you motivated and keeps your passion for this mission?
I think the we've seen a change in the programs, and still a lot of those, like the homeless thing. I've had a chance to visit some of those. We have shelters here where I'm from that to see the difference that getting someone off the street, hopefully you can catch them before they wind up in that situation, but to get them off the street where they had no hope whatsoever, it could be a broken family, it could just be someone who's lost a job and lost everything, but that type of program to get them in somewhere where they know somebody cares about them and provide a means for them to improve their life and look forward, they'll eventually get jobs and wind up in a good situation, a better life, and possibly for some of them even get back with their families. So that type of stuff is very, very encouraging to me.
Well, and I think you hit it on the nail on the head there too, with the knowing that there's somebody there for them, and I think the trust. I mean, grant recipients run the gamut. Caregiver support, suicide prevention, homelessness, like you talked about. Service dogs. There's just so many different areas where you're able to touch veterans where they are and what they need. And I can only imagine the growth that the trust has seen over the past few decades. Can you talk a little bit about that?
When you mention service dogs, that's an interesting. Over the years, I've had a chance to, especially at the conventions, to sit and talk with people with different animals. It takes a personal conversation like that where people are just sitting around and want to talk, but to understand that those service dogs serve the purpose that they do. So I know there are a lot of people that don't really think they do that, but they do. And I've talked to young, old, male, female that have been involved in that program, and it's really good. Some of the things that I've had the opportunity to visit have been like the program in Florida, swimming with the dolphins, and there again, spending days. It's not just the animal aspect, which to me is extremely impressive, but to sit with the veterans and their families at the different opportunities we have to sit and talk and have our meals and do things, art on paper, and then express yourself that way. Some of the programs where their PTSD is treated with involved in art. People with problems who never thought they could get some type of relief out of drawing a picture expressing themselves in that way have found out that that's what was good for them. The people, the veterans, who would have thought that swimming with a dolphin could change a person's view, their outlook on life. In riding horses, I've participated in that, and it's amazing that the camaraderie between a veteran and a horse, once they're like the best of friends, and they're whatever they needed, it comes out of that connection.
What do you think the legacy of the CST will be, the trust?
We just recently received another 4-star rating from Charity Navigators, and in the years since they've been, I think that's 16 times for us. So that's pretty impressive, and I hope that people are aware of that. We certainly try to make them aware of it. So given that type of credibility, I would hope that those major donors who want to make a difference in the lives of our nation's heroes, I would hope they would see that and know that the Charitable Trust is probably the best place that they can investigate and make their donations.
Personally, what are your hopes and goals for the future of the trust?
Well, I want to see us keep growing, to investigate and get involved in more projects. That seems hard to say with what we do, but just keep looking for new possibilities to let those veterans that we serve achieve all that is possible for them and for their families. The trust has come a long way, and I know it can go even further than where we are now. And we have excellent leadership on our board and with our administrator to make that happen.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. You too, Mary. Thank you.
Now that we've heard a bit about the Charitable Service Trust, how it was founded, and what its purpose is, let's start hearing from some of the organizations that have benefited from the grants provided by the Trust. Up first, we're going to hear from the Quality of Life Foundation. The organization has been around for about 10 years and was founded to help combat the unique challenges faced by the families of service members with wounds, injuries, or illnesses that required substantial caregiving. Fighting for caregiving rights and caregivers' rights is something that is very important to DAV as well. Ashley had a chance to sit down with Andrea Sawyer, who serves as the Advocacy Navigator at the organization, to learn more about what they do and how the grant provided by the Charitable Service Trust has allowed them to help so many families.
So, Andrea, thank you very, very much for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us today. Clearly, caregivers, veteran caregivers, this is an area that's very important to us, and certainly an area that we've focused a lot of our advocacy efforts on. So thank you for taking some time out. And I would like for you to tell me just a little bit about the history of the organization and kind of how it got started.
Thanks for having us, Ashley. We started out, we just had our 10-year anniversary maybe 2 years ago. And we originally started out as an organization that was looking at the problems that were faced by families as they left the hospital and left the military, who were in the severely and catastrophically wounded category and transitioning home. And what their needs were, specifically what their caregivers' needs were when those families arrived back home. And it kind of evolved into an organization that did a lot of advocacy in different VA programs around for the families around what the caregiver specifically defined as needs that would improve his or her quality of life. And we would either meet those needs ourselves or partner with an organization that would do that, or do a direct handoff to an organization that was better able to meet those needs. But it was always a warm handoff. We transitioned in October to specifically doing advocacy only. And our advocacy efforts, for the most part, are centered around the VA program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. We do certainly advocate for some other issues within VA, but the majority of our time, probably 70% of our time, is now spent specifically on nothing but working to help people with their denials of PCAFC, or better known as the Caregiver Support Program, the stipended portion of the Caregiver Support Program.
Right. And so for those listeners who may not be entirely familiar with it, there have been in the past year and following the implementation of the VA Mission Act, there have been significant changes that have come down to that program, which does provide, as you mentioned, some stipends, some monthly stipends, training, respite care, things like that for family caregivers of veterans, to include differences in eligibility, different percentages of disability that qualify you for the program. We were very much involved in advocating for the older generations of veterans, World War I or World War II, Korea and Vietnam, to be included. So that's happened now. But lots and lots of changes happening. And we know that there have been a significant number of applications that were submitted, and a lot of denials that have come out of that. I think, and you've probably seen this too, Andrea, a lot of it is either, they're not the right era. They're still in that block from May 7th, 1975 to September 11th, 2001, that are not yet eligible, or people who, again, don't fit that disability qualification that they have built into the eligibility program. So I certainly understand that you guys have some important work to do there, and just as we do, trying to make sure we're sticking by those folks and making sure if they were denied, that they understand why, or that we can help to work and file that appeal. So it's really important work that you guys are doing, and certainly you must have your hands full.
It's been an interesting transition. I, of course, myself am a caregiver and am a post 9/11 caregiver, and was in the stipend, and am in the stipended portion of that program, and looking for reevaluations to start for those of us who are already in the program. They'll start, my understanding is later this spring. But yes, it's been interesting to see most of our problems, our veterans' problems, have not been based around the wrong generation, but more when we're looking at the Veteran Functional Assessment Instrument and the medical records review, and how fast the process is pushed through. So, and then there, of course, is a timeline for getting your paperwork in, and so it's been a process of looking at what the process is and determining the differences, because certainly just the boots on the ground from the day you submit your application till the day you get your approval or denial, and all the steps in between, have changed a lot from the post 9/11, from the original steps in the post 9/11 program. And so understanding those, and then understanding where there may be some issues and where we can do some advocacy to either, as you said, help veterans understand why they were receiving a denial, or to help them formulate a letter that they would submit, on their own as their appeal, that specifically cites instances that we think qualify them for the program.
So as a caregiver yourself, and obviously you've got some unique insight into the unique needs of veteran caregivers, which I think it only benefits you in trying to work with these caregivers that you have built relationships with. You have to have that trust. They have to know that you understand their needs. And when we're talking about, let's say that they are denied, there are a host of other things that are available to caregivers, both within and outside of VA. So that's something that you mentioned, this kind of warm handoff. Can you tell me a little bit about how you guys handle that and what you're seeing are the needs of veteran caregivers?
Sure. So, for instance, if you have a need for respite, sometimes you would qualify for respite. The veteran would qualify for respite within a different program within the VA instead of the caregiver support program. So sometimes we educate those caregivers on how to go to the primary care provider and say, look, I am in need of some respite. And certainly a PCM can put in a request for that. If we think they qualify for homemaker services, we, ask them to ask about that process. If it's something that's needed right away, obviously the VA takes a little bit of time. If it's needed right away, there are other programs that can get someone in much more quickly than the VA can, for a short amount of time, so that the VA process itself can work. And we will contact those other nonprofit programs directly and do a warm handoff and say, please expect an application from this person. It's supported by us. Here's the details that you need about why we think they would be a candidate for your respite program. And please update us, as they proceed through that process with you. So we don't ever want to just hand somebody a phone number and say, call yourself, and then they get lost in the process.
Yeah, that happens far too often. And it's damaging for veterans and caregivers, I think, to reach those roadblocks and feel like they don't have an advocate there to assist them and someone, it's a very complex system in a lot of cases. And having that advocate, that friend to help you navigate through that is crucial. Andrea, what is the feedback that you've received from the veterans and caregivers, family members that you've helped over the years?
Specifically around PCAFC, the caregiver support program, when we were dealing with the just post 9/11 criteria, and we were receiving a large group of denials, a lot of it was just thank you for the explanation. Like if it was somebody that didn't qualify and we didn't think they were going to qualify, we could sit down and say, well, you got to know on this question because you need this, 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 and this. And then we could say, if you have that information and it's not in the VA record, because maybe you're seeing a civilian doctor for it, then put that information in the record and reapply. Or if it's an illness, illnesses didn't qualify under that old program. And so a lot of the feedback we got, even if we weren't able to help someone successfully get in the program, was, I just appreciate that somebody took the time to look over it and provide me an explanation other than you just don't qualify.
Right.
Because for a lot of us, as caregivers, sometimes we get lots of no's, and we get a lot of yeses too, but the no's are what's frustrating, especially if they don't come with an explanation that makes sense. And so we always want to make sure that if they're able to get services, that we help find them services. And if they're not, that we can provide a really good explanation of either why they're not or what else they need to qualify. So,
okay, great. What does the, DAV's Charitable Service Trust, we issue these grants. We certainly, this is an area where we're very interested, we're very involved, but we don't necessarily have a mechanism to walk caregivers through these steps the same way that you do. And we don't have that, that same sort of relationship with all this broader network of caregivers who would look to us to provide that one-on-one feedback and walk them through a denial if that were the case. So what does receiving the CST grant mean to your organization, and how much of a difference does it make in what you're able to achieve?
So right now, the grant is one of our major sources of funding. And so it allows us, it's not our only source of funding, but it's one of our major sources of funding right now. It really allows us to spend that quality of time with caregivers, or to spend the quality time looking for a really good resource, developing a really good contact, either within the VA or outside of the VA, to help them solve that problem or to give them an explanation. That to me as a caregiver was the biggest thing, having the explanation. And so being able to do that for other caregivers when they're sitting in their frustration, and being able to take some of that away from them, is the benefit that we have from the charitable trust, is that we can make differences. And when you're talking about whether somebody qualifies for a stipend, I mean, that can be a $20,000 to $40,000 a year difference for a family's income, which is nice to hear, but, as the person who helped them achieve that, but really it's knowing that family is going to be able to have some real gains because of what we did. And we're able to do that because of the grant from the Charitable Services Trust.
Right. And final question for you, Andrea, where can veterans and their caregivers go to learn more about Quality of Life Foundation or to get help?
So you can go to our website, which is QOL, like quality of life, the whole word foundation, .org. Or you can go to Wounded Veteran Family Care Program.org. Both of them will get you to us. And then if you need to request assistance for one of the reasons we talked about, you click on the Request Assistance tab.
So it's funny, Andrea and I shared a lot of common ground in that conversation, as caregivers are an area of great importance to her, both on a personal and professional level, as you heard. And Dan, as you mentioned, for DAV, as we've championed better support for caregivers for many, many years. But the work that they're doing is truly critical at the Quality of Life Foundation, and we are so glad to be involved with them through the CST. I was also so fortunate to have the chance to talk with Heather Ely, who is the president and CEO for Project Sanctuary, another CST grant recipient. Now, I love their mission. Project Sanctuary specializes in therapeutic retreats for veterans and their families, but I think the thing that I love the most is how uniquely tailored every experience is for the individuals that they serve. They really get to know these veterans and their families. And while it's not an overnight process, they really get down in the weeds to help them connect with the resources and tools they need to thrive. But Heather has a much better way of explaining all this than I can. So let's take a listen to Heather Ely, President and CEO for Project Sanctuary.
Heather, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to be here with us today.
Thank you so much for not only the support, but the opportunity to let your listeners know what we're doing and how we're making a difference.
Absolutely. And I am very excited to have you tell us a little bit more about sort of the history of the program and what inspired you to start it in the first place.
14 years ago, which makes me a founder, CEO dinosaur at this point. I was working as a registered nurse and recognized that our military families were not getting the support and services that they truly needed. And with 9/11, what what really struck me was the families and who was going to take care of the families. And as a registered nurse, I Googled who's taking care of the families, and nothing really came up. And we live in beautiful Colorado, year-round recreation, lots of opportunities for teaching and healing and recreation. And it just seemed like a great fit. So I went back to some veterans that I knew and said, hey, I've got this crazy idea. Would it work? And Project Sanctuary was born.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the outline of the program, the kind of work that you do? I mean, you're talking about, this sort of long-term therapeutic program, and tell me about the programs that you offer, what the kind of things that you address there are.
I think the best way to describe it is how we're different. People hear retreats and they think, oh, it's just all fun and games. And anyone out there working with veterans and military families, they're doing their part and it makes a difference. Our take is we do therapeutic 6-day retreats. They're designed by a certified therapeutic rec specialist. We have licensed professional counselors, social workers on board at every single retreat. We host 2 hours worth of classroom times a day to talk about communications, relationships, post-traumatic stress, how to live with it as a family, financial issues, what are your barriers, how do we get over those? And then after the 6-day therapeutic retreat, the continuity of care. And honestly, it came from our family saying, Miss Heather, we need help with this. Miss Heather, we need help with that. And so we launched with our social workers a family support program to address whatever needs those families are having, whether they need help with rent, whether they need help with more financial management, or they need counseling referrals, or which youth program do I send my kids to this summer? What's available for our military kiddos? So we stay with the families for at least 2 years. We're also offering destination resource weekends where we meet with couples just for an intensive weekend of goal setting. And then we bring in partners, local partners in their community and national partners that can help them achieve their goals that they just set. So it's a really fun, impactful weekend too. So 3 programs: therapeutic retreats, family support for case management, and then destination resource weekends.
Wow. So it sounds intense and it sounds all encompassing, which, I mean, I think that's really what you need. It's not, you can't say, let's solve veteran suicide by doing this small thing over here, or let's fix veterans homelessness by doing this one thing over here. It really is like a comprehensive approach is what it sounds like.
And we really do take our cues from our families. So it's not us saying, hey, we think this will work. We're actually on the ground with the family saying, what do you need? How can we help you? And for 14 years, they haven't steered us wrong. If you empower that family, they're going to make the difference in their own suicides and homelessness and prevention. They're going to do what's needed. So I think it's just a matter of honoring each family, listening to them, and giving them the support they need.
You know, you say that and it's like this light bulb kind of goes off in my head where we have a lot of top-down programs. We have these very big idea projects that are all good. You know, I'm never going to eschew someone's attempt to help a veteran, but sometimes it seems like things can be so big that what you really need is that one-on-one conversation with the family member, with the veteran, to ask, what can I do for you? Like one-on-one, what can we do? So you know, I look at how the CST works and kind of what we were talking about earlier, where, you know, DAV we're a relatively large organization. We do a lot of different kinds of projects. We offer a lot of different kinds of services for veterans, but we can't do it all. We're happy to work in concert with many different organizations and partners to address these large scale issues for veterans and their families. But it really is so important to have organizations like yours, like Project Sanctuary, doing that groundwork that we as an organization might not have the resources necessarily to start up on our own. So that's incredible. Talk to me a little bit about the area in which you serve. Where do your veterans come from? How many, you know, you said you've been around for about 14 years, I think you said. So how many veterans are we talking here that have gone through your program? And again, where are they coming from?
We're national. We actually host sites in 7 different states across the country. So we try to make our program more accessible. We know transportation can be an issue for some of our veterans and families. We do serve active duty families as well. It's a smaller percentage, and most of those families are in the med board process. So we're able to help them transition. But our veterans come from all over the United States. And we serve all eras. Any military family that could benefit from a therapeutic program, sign up. We're here for you. This is exactly what we do. We're not a vacation, but we absolutely have fun. There's a nice balance of some serious conversation, some long walks with a counselor on a hike, maybe.
Do you have any stories about, veterans that you can recall coming to you and talking, or family members talking about how this has impacted them or changed their lives? Because that's really what you're doing. But I know that in most cases like yours, there are some standout individuals that you might think of when you ask that question.
Oh, absolutely. And it really is, I'm so honored to be able to host these programs for military families because they are resilient. In a lot of cases, they grew up in a military home, they enlisted in the military, and now they're wanting something different. They're addressing their mental health issues. They want to do something better. And I'm watching their kids now grow up and enlist. So it's a multi-generational effect. One of my favorite stories, because they hear family retreats, and we take all families. Felicia came with her mom, and she is a female veteran. And for years, she just shut down because of her post-traumatic stress and her traumas. And her mom came into the retreat and said, she won't talk, she won't touch you. She's completely closed off. And by the end of the retreat, I'd booked her a therapeutic massage because she needed human touch. And she was hugging all the male veterans. We worked with Felicia, and Felicia did most of the work. She did art therapy. She followed up. I sent her on Vision Quest. I sent her on to a trip in Alaska to go fishing with the guys. And today she's actually leading expeditions for another nonprofit. She comes back and volunteers with us also, but she is wide open. She's like, give me the tough female veterans that are closed down. I want to pay it forward and help them out. And to me, that's one of the greatest parts of the program, is when we see our veterans break through that shell, and then they're able to use their post-traumatic stress as post-traumatic growth, and they pay it forward and help other veterans.
Can you talk about what the CST grant has meant to you and what a difference it makes in allowing you to facilitate these programs, which then allow veterans to do this difficult work?
And you said it perfectly before. We can't do it all. So being able to partner with other organizations and to the grant money in particular, that just means we're not working as hard raising money. We can spend more time on our programs, which is where our focus needs to be. It needs to be back with our veterans. And the DAV, honestly, it gives us another level of people know that we can be trusted. So when you have great partnerships and you work together, it really strengthens both programs, and really it's the military families that benefit the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Heather, is there anything else that you would like people to know about Project Sanctuary?
Just that we're an open door. If we're not the right fit, we still provide resources, services to any military family, whether you take advantage of the retreats or a destination resource weekend. We're an open door. We're going to point you in the right direction. We like to work with other organizations. We can't do it all. I will send you fishing somewhere else. And that you don't have to be stuck in the basement. There are people that understand and really truly get it. And just pick up the phone, send us an email. We'd love to help.
And where is it that veterans or family members can go to learn more about your organization?
Yeah, we're projectsanctuary.us. And you can find us on our website. You can find us on social media, and just look for the parachute. We're a safe landing.
Excellent. Heather, thank you so much for telling us about this wonderful organization. We wish you absolutely the best. And of course, the best to all the veterans that you serve as well.
Thank you so much for this opportunity and for your incredible support.
All right. Really good stuff there on Project Sanctuary. Enjoyed that interview. And we have another good one coming up for you here. Our next guest, Bethany Layton, comes from Canines for Service, where she serves as the executive director. The organization celebrating its 25th year of serving veterans this year with their service training dogs. And the best part of the story for me is they're all rescue dogs too, so they're in essence saving 2 lives at once. Bethany shared more about their great work, and as she sat down with Ashley and talked about how they help veterans and how these veterans have been impacted by these service dogs.
Tell me a little bit about, I guess we will, sort of the history of your organization, kind of how you guys got started.
Yeah, so this is actually our 25th anniversary. So we've been around for 25 years and started out as an agency by 2 individuals that love dogs, were passionate about them, and saw the benefits of training them to be service dogs. And we've evolved into an organization that solely focuses on veterans and just serving veterans and training service dogs for veterans. Traditionally, we are an organization that's unique in the community in the sense that we rely about 90% on dogs that we rescue from the shelter, which is a fantastic way of saving 2 lives in some ways. And so we are active in our community and securing dogs from shelters, and that's been a big part of our history as well. And working with those dogs to train them as service dogs for veterans.
That's fantastic. I love dogs. I love veterans. Obviously, those are 2 of my passions too, but it's so nice to hear about being able to really, like you said, save 2 lives, give 2 lives a chance for that new meaning. Service dogs, having worked in this field with disabled veterans for so long, to me, it seems like service dogs really symbolize, or they're synonymous with, independence. And it means that these individuals with various conditions or disabilities can sort of regain some or even all of that autonomy that they had in their own life prior to an illness or an injury, whether it be a physical or a mental health issue, if it's PTSD, if it's some sort of mobility issue. So can you tell me sort of about the outline of your program and dig into sort of the work that you guys do for veterans and sort of how that placement works and how you guys actually make that happen?
As I said, we rescue dogs from the shelters, and we have a team that goes out and assesses whether a dog would be good for this type of work, and they have the right temperament, the focus, and are kind of evaluating them for this work. We also do have puppies that we work with that get donated and have been bred for this work. Sometimes that's ends up being a more reliable dog in the long run, but we just have different sources of dogs that we do get. And then they kind of start with the basics training process, and we're looking to teach them basic skills. They advance through intermediate and then advanced. And all of that process is really about training them to do the various skills that you kind of would think about in terms of giving a veteran their independence, whether that be mobility and helping them be able to stand and walk. We have them opening up refrigerator doors. We have them opening up the washer or the dryer. They unload clothes out of a dryer. They put clothes into a washing machine, which is sometimes blows people's minds. But all of those mobility things, whether it's walking up a step, helping open up different doors, turning on and off lights, that are going to be really useful for a veteran who might have a mobility disability, and really give them confidence in getting up and being able to do those things. We also train the dogs specifically for responding to PTSD. So we have different commands. If we know that a veteran has night terrors, that the dog will be trained to go and wake up the veteran from that night terror, to pull back the blankets, to provide comfort. We have a command that's more like a hug, that the dog jumps up on the lap and is able to recognize when a veteran might need that extra attention and support and calming down. We have another command that we teach that is helpful for veterans who might experience different triggers when out in public, clearing spaces for the veteran so that they're not triggered by crowded spaces. Watching, so alerting the veteran if someone is approaching them from behind. So a lot of those different things that we train the dogs to respond specifically to the needs of the veteran. It typically takes from 9 to 14 months to train a dog. So at any given time, they're in different phases of that training. And it's really fun to see them in action and see really what all they can do, because it does blow your mind how much a dog can do for an individual. But I think to your point, it's giving them confidence to be able to go out into the world and to lead a normal life. I think so much is it just the pure joy that a dog brings to you, but also what it does for the veteran is give them confidence to go to the grocery store, to go to Walmart, to go out and be social again. And that's changing your life in a lot of ways.
I'm curious, do you guys have a wider scope across the nation? How and where do you serve veterans?
Yeah, so we serve veterans all across the country. We're based in Wilmington, North Carolina. Our training facility is in North Carolina. We receive dogs from across the country, though, and we serve veterans from across the country. We have several on our waiting list now out of state, so it's not uncommon for us to travel to other locations to place that dog with a veteran or have them come here and receive that dog. And that's really important for us to eliminate any of those barriers. We do get a lot of applicants locally, but we want to ensure that the location, the travel isn't a barrier for a veteran. And so one of the things that also makes us unique is that we do not ask anything of the veteran in terms of a financial commitment. There is no cost associated with receiving a dog from us. We pay for their flight to get here, or we will pay for our flight to get to them. And that's really important to remove those barriers and really open up the accessibility for that veteran.
Can you tell me, the Charitable Service Trust for DAV, we do a lot of things for veterans. We can't do it all.
Right.
And so we look to organizations like yours to be able to extend that arm and extend that reach and to provide these incredible services. So
yeah.
Can you tell me what that CST grant means to you and your organization, and how much of a difference it makes in how many dogs you're able to place and how many veterans you're able to, to impact, how many lives you're able to change?
So we are super grateful for the grant that we received because it does help cover those costs of training the dog, but also taking care of the dog while they're in training. So you think about their veterinary visits, their food, their housing, their all the things that you would, pour into any dog that you need to take care of while they're going through the training. It costs anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000 to train a service dog, just depending how long they're in the program. And like I said, we get some very young dogs and we get some dogs that are closer to a year. So it just depends on where they're at. And it's really important that we as an organization fundraise and provide that free of cost to our veteran. We are also active in helping them set up VA benefits so that if they qualify, they can actually have the VA cover some of the veterinarian care of the dog after they are placed. And like I mentioned before, it's really important for us to not have the veteran have to pay to get here for the team training. Team training is usually about a week long, where we match the veteran with the dog and provide them with additional support in terms of the commands and the specific things that dog has been trained to do for them. And so housing them, feeding them, taking care of all of that is something that we as an organization cover. And so grants like this really enable this work to continue and for us to continue to be able to offer what is essentially a medical device when you think about a service dog and what you're doing at no charge to the veteran. And so we're super grateful for the organization and others that continue to support us and allow us to do this work.
Do you have any kind of favorite stories about or favorite comments from a veteran who's given feedback about what service dog has meant to them?
I think about the same story and just what the spouse said about her husband and not seeing him in that light in a really long time. I think about another veteran and his dog who has enabled him to get out of the house and be able to do so much more. Another veteran was able to actually hike the Appalachian Trail, and it was a lifelong goal of his. And so his service dog gave him the confidence and the ability to get out on the trail and do that. So it truly is a life-changing opportunity for a lot of our veterans. And just having the security to know that your dog is going to be there, I think, as well. Should you have a moment that is, you're questioning or you're being triggered or something, that dog just gives them so much confidence. And I think we see that every day in the work that we do.
Bethany, thank you so much for taking some time out. Wonderful, wonderful work that you guys are doing. It's so important. And we just really appreciate everything that you do. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
So Dan, I love a good dog story, and Canines for Service, their mission is so important. There are so many veterans out there that are waiting for service animals. It does take, as mentioned in the interview, it does take a long time. There's a lot of training and a lot of funding involved. So they're really doing some great work, and I'm just so proud to be involved with them. Next up, we're going to hear about a program called Adaptive Adventures. Now, DAV has been involved in a number of different outdoor and adaptive recreation therapy programs. For instance, the National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic is just one example of that. But we know the value that these programs hold, and we've seen year after year firsthand how it changes lives. So Mary Deaver was able to chat with Chelsea Elder, who is the Executive Director for Adaptive Adventures, to go a little bit more in depth about the specifics of their program and how the CST grant is actually helping them to make a difference in the lives of veterans.
What is Adaptive Adventures and what do you guys do? You've been around for 20 plus years, correct?
Yeah, we actually started in 1999, and we were started by two individuals with physical disabilities who saw a need to provide more adventure-based opportunities, specifically for those who were maybe not seeking the Paralympic route, but wanted to have those grand adventures, but still have kind of that camaraderie and safety of having other individuals who understand their disability and needs. So it started out with an accessible houseboat trip on Lake Powell and some adventure ski camps in like Jackson Hole and Grand Targhee and Banff, Canada. And then it slowly kind of morphed. I would say in 2014, the mission kind of changed a little bit, and it really became to kind of travel and serve unserved, underserved areas of the country. So our mission is actually to provide progressive outdoor sports opportunities to improve the quality of life for children, adults, and veterans with physical disabilities and their families, which is really important to us to include the families, caregivers in the activities that they do, because it may be the only time that they get to recreate with their loved one.
How did you get involved with helping veterans?
The organization received a VA adaptive sport grant, and around the same time became a partner with the Wounded Warrior Project as well, and shortly thereafter with DAV and nationally. And so it's 55% of the individuals that we serve, and we also serve over 30 VA medical centers each year. So for me personally, I actually started with the organization as a volunteer in 2010, and then became the military manager for the organization in about 2014. And my dad's a disabled Vietnam veteran, and I was his caregiver for several years. So it's very near and dear to my heart.
I can see that. And you could probably also speak from your personal experience. How do adaptive sports, how do they improve a veteran's quality of life?
Yeah, I would say in all ways, physical, emotional, social, we see people say to us all the time that they've experienced so much freedom. And, it's not just about providing a sport or playing, recreating, but it's really about the community, the camaraderie that they experience, becoming independent. That's extremely important to us, is that people don't just have to rely on coming to our program all the time. We really try to equip them with the skills, knowledge, and the resources to get their own equipment, to be able to become independent. So, we do a lot around cycling so that people can maybe ride a bike for the first time, or maybe the first time post-injury. And that can also become a mode of transportation for individuals who can't drive. And it really becomes a great tool for them to utilize to get out with their families as well.
One thing I noticed about your organization too is you're not just one type of adventure. You're not just one type. There's a lot. It's year round. There's a lot of different avenues that people can participate in. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we do quite a few different sports, and we kind of do all levels, beginner to advanced. So we provide cycling, climbing, kayaking, paddle boarding, one of my personal favorites, dragon boat racing, skiing, snowboarding, water skiing, and rafting. So it allows us to keep people engaged throughout the year, and also to provide a variety of different options. So we do trainings and clinics, and we do like really skill development based programs, but then we also do camps where people get to really know each other and kind of experience that camaraderie I was talking about. And then we also have like ongoing programs where it's, every month they go to the same climbing gym and participate together. So it's quite a variety of different activities and options.
What other things do you hope to see for the future of your organization?
Yeah, so I think the big thing for us is we're always trying to build sustainability disability. So, we do a lot with partnerships, trying to help really foster programs in areas that otherwise wouldn't have the services by providing resources, providing equipment, providing training. And so I think that's really our goal, is to continue to do that until nobody asks us to do that anymore. So, just really continue to build up those programs, the opportunities, make sure that, if there's a community that wants the opportunities to exist, that we're able to do that. And hopefully, get a lot of outfitters, bike shops, climbing gyms trained on how to be more inclusive. And I think really our overall goal as an organization, even outside of our veteran services, is really to just help the outdoor industry altogether become more inclusive.
How will the CST grant impact that goal as well as your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, the CST grant is crucial to our Adaptive Ventures Military Operations Program. It provides so much support to a lot of the different logistics that it takes to run our program. And I think the DAV has been extremely supportive of that and understanding of that, specifically in helping to fund that piece of keeping the families involved. So that's really, really important. And really just the continued support that we've received has just helped us to continue to build it and grow every year. And we're at a very different place than we were 5 years ago with the program. So it's been a really wonderful partnership for us to have.
Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would just say for anybody who may be, tentative about coming out to an adaptive sports program, just really focus on the fact that, the individuals who are going to be working with you are well equipped. They've seen lots of different experiences and abilities. And so don't be afraid. I get calls all the time of people saying, but I'm a triple amputee. How am I going to do that? And just, there's so much technology, there's so much innovation, and, we'll provide you the skills and the knowledge that you need to be able to be successful. So I would just say for anybody that's listening to really lean into that, you can do it. And we're going to be here to support you. So
how can I find out more?
If you visit our website at adaptiveadventures.org, we have an events tab there where you can click on it and it will show you all of the different events we have going on. We're slowly returning to in-person program delivery. So we've been kind of traveling around a little bit more, using a kind of a return to play plan for us to keep everybody safe. And then we still have our virtual program offerings. So I would encourage people to check that out and get a part of our community.
And you reach nationwide, correct?
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you so much for everything that you do for veterans and for people underserved areas all across the country, and for continuing it through these, crazy times of everything being virtual, but you're able to still, encourage people to be active during that time. And that's a really special thing. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the support of the DAV Charitable Service Trust.
All right, what a great slate of guests and stories there as we learned more today about the DAV Charitable Service Trust. You can continue to learn more about the trust and the work that they do. Visit cst.dav.org. As a reminder, if you like what you heard today on the podcast, check out all of our podcasts. This is 15th episode, so there are plenty of good ones already on demand, and we're putting them out all the time. DAV.org podcast is where you can find the home of all those episodes, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen, including iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher too, and follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn as well. And Ashley, as much as we enjoyed this topic, we have some even more deeper topics to get into in some future episodes here, and lots of good things ahead as we look deeper into 2021.
Yep. So some of the episodes that we've got coming up, I know we're going to be talking about DAV's service program, and it really is a very rich and varied program. We talk about not only what we do in those direct interactions with veterans on a day-to-day basis, helping them make that transition from military service to to civilian life, but also the things that we do out in different communities as far as disaster relief. There's been certainly no shortage of issues over the past year, and we are very much so making a difference in the lives of veterans through that service program. And we're also going to be talking about the minority veteran experience. This is something that we've adapted our critical policy goals over the last year. We wanted to make sure that we were focusing on the needs of those minority and underserved populations as well, and sort of bringing some of those issues to the forefront. So very excited to bring that issue through and talk a little bit more about that in an upcoming episode.
If you're a veteran that needs help, learn more about our programs and services, visit DAV.org. If you'd like to help us help veterans, you can donate there as well. Until next time, for all of us here at DAV and Ashley Burns, I am Dan Klaskins. Thanks for listening to another edition of the DAV Podcast.